Good morning. It's Sunday. It's 2 degrees outside. Let's go to work. And that, my friends, was an incredible morning of lessons. 2 private students, 1 group session on phlegm rudiments. I'm pumped and I'm starving. It's time to have some lunch. Alright, so it's 20 past 5. Been teaching since 9:30 a.m. I'm a bit tired. I still have 2 more students. We are not done here, my friends. We are not even close to being done. That's it. I'm finished here at the academy. So I started teaching a little bit before 10 a.m. Then workshop, teaching a group of people. Then more private lessons. By the way, I had a half an hour break between the group session and then more private lessons. Private lesson, private lesson, private lesson, private lesson, private lesson. You might think, oh, this guy is such a baby. Like he taught like 8, 9, 11, 12 people today. Such a baby. And I tell you, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. Alright, time to go home. But I want to talk to you about why we make so many mistakes whenever we have new information in front of us. It's all in the brain. Let's talk about it. I'm sure you felt this before, but whenever you're trying to learn something new, you're trying to apply a new chunk of information into your playing, I'm sure you often felt that your body and your mind often revert back to what they are comfortable with. But what is muscle memory? What exactly makes us make so many mistakes whenever we need to learn something new? Let me give you some context before I give you the answer. Whenever I ask my students to displace notes, for example, this morning I was working with one of my students on displacing the end of a fill. Now, of course, for the first 50 times, this student played the crash at beat 1. Why? Muscle memory, they say. Not completely right. So here's what happens. We often try too much too soon. Our brains are wired to scan your surroundings and look for things that, according to our mind, are not right. So we look for mistakes. Our brain hates being proven wrong, it hates being wrong, so it will fill the gaps. It will literally fill the gaps of what's not correct. What does that mean? Much like when you record sound in real life and you insert that into a digital device, you will have what we call sampling. So in other words, that sound that has been captured has been broken down into thousands of little bits, and then considering that sound outside in the real world has infinite bits, the machine will have to fill the gaps. That's called sampling. The brain does that when it comes to reality. What we see is merely a perception. This is a recreation of what's actually real. In other words, when we are exposed to new information, the brain literally initially refuses it, seeing it as a mistake, and fills the gap, forcing you to correct that mistake. That's why we often go back and revert back to bit 1, because bit 1 is familiar. Bit 1 is seen by the brain as the correct thing to do. So how can we avoid this? How can we avoid that preset that our brains have that forces us to actually make more mistakes? Because yes, we have our intellectual brain, and intellectually we do understand that we have to play that bass drum crash at the E of 1 and not the 1. Well, it's not easy, but we have to try to rewire the brain so it becomes blank whenever you want to practice something new. You literally have to go back to, I've never played drums before. So you use the tools that give you a frame of work, counting, a metronome, playing slowly, etc., etc. And then you try to face that challenge with a blank mind. In other words, no baggage, no past, no knowledge. Just assume that you don't know what you are about to do. Odds are your brain will accept a little bit easier whatever you're trying to do. So you gotta give yourself a little bit of time to process it intellectually, so then you can transfer that information to the unconscious brain. So it might sound a little bit nerdy, but if you do this correctly, you might become a drum machine. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It's amazing to consider that I'm holding in my hands the place where someone once felt, thought,